We traded all our thens for the now. These days we're half awake, waiting for lights to come on. Where's all that heartbreak headed? I used to hear it in the airwaves, airwaves. Come on. Where's all that heartbreak headed? I used to hear it in the airwaves, airwaves. They said your cigarette heart was burning down to the tips of the fingers of the man who's been calling you his. You used to set him alight. Now you're the wrong kind of vice. Some days I nearly start to chase you through the dark and the depth to feel you here between my teeth and your smoke on my breath. Some days I just watch it burn.
The man of the hour.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. I really like those U2 posters.
Thank you, man. Andrew Leahy in the flesh, everybody. Look at you, man. So glad to have you with us, Andrew. How's everything
Glad to
going?
be here. It's great, just kind of getting my week going. I work at home as a music journalist, but I'm not playing music. So I was working all weekend in that capacity. So I'm also enjoying kind of a slower Monday than I usually would, which has been nice.
Absolutely. And Andrew, just to introduce you to maybe my audience that doesn't know you, I mean, you are a hit-making machine. So let me just indulge them because you just make one after another. I mean, that's good, man, but check this one out. One after another, man. You just make magic. And if you think that one is good, check this one out. I mean, dude, I could go on forever, man. I could go on forever, man. You're just a hit-making machine, brother.
Well, we have. I appreciate that. We have a lot more on the way, actually. We recorded a double album, and we're going to put it out in two parts. So basically, one album in October of this year, and then one album, probably early spring of next year. And 18 new songs. Hopefully, you'll like those too.
Absolutely, Andrew. And, I have to tell you, I've been in Nashville now 8 months. I was in Miami, basically Miami radio my whole life. And you quickly realize that reputation matters in this town, Andrew. It all comes down to the timeless stuff, the timeless values, keeping your word, having an open heart, being a giving soul, Andrew. And you, Andrew Leahy, I have to tell you, not only are you really good musically, but the quality of human, like everyone just raves about you in the human sense, and it's a beautiful thing.
I appreciate that. That is great. I appreciate you saying that.
It moves a lot. True.
Yeah, it moves me.
True. It's true, Andrew. And the other day I was watching a documentary about Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and those guys were so competitive with one another, Andrew. So I wanted to ask you, start there. Their downfall was their competition.
Sure.
Rather than being collaborative, if you will. What is it about Nashville, Andrew, that there's a genuine care and camaraderie between the bands, between the talents? That they want to lift each other up?
Sure. I mean, I think, you do have that, the mentality of a rising tide floats all ships. I do think that you'll find competition in Nashville, but amongst, communities like themselves. I think the real trick is to isolate what your community is. And then within that, you do everything you can to help, your neighbors and your brothers rise up. So, even though I don't live in East Nashville, I feel like East Nashville is at least my musical community. And I mean, a bunch of, the artists that, you saw me playing with at the Traveling Wilburys show last weekend, whose poster I have on my wall. You can't see it, but it's right over there.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
I've played with a lot of them. I play with Elizabeth Cook and her band. I have, I traded gigs with.
You are the guitarist behind this masterpiece, by the way, right here, guys. Yeah. So for the audience, yeah.
Isn't that a good album? I love that album.
Oh, well, the guitar player is pretty decent in it, so yeah.
Well, I played okay on that album because our producer was Butch Walker, who also played the Traveling Wilbury show with us. And when your producer is a great guitarist, you know that you have to get up there and swing the bat, you know. But I think like that's indicative of what I was saying. I've already worked with all of these people in the past, and it just creates this like really circular, collaborative community where you realize that like your own career, it's not some like linear path. It's like a circle where you can do all of these other projects. Everything can encourage other projects,
Sure.
and it's just more collaborative.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And
Sure.
you talk about the
My cat
Wilburys.
is scratching on the wall. I'm gonna move him real fast. Hey, buddy.
What's your cat's name?
Well, I have two. Like this one is Lorenzo. I have Lupe
Lorenzo.
over here, but he
I love
knows
it.
that I'm like talking with another person, and he's pretty jealous. But I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh, we have pets here. Don't worry, man. We get it, Andrew. And you asked about the Wilbury show. You mentioned that show, and that July 2nd, 2021, basically, Andrew. I've seen some shows, Andrew. I've seen some good shows in my lifetime. But you organized Andrew Leahy and the Homestead tribute show to the Traveling Wilburys, for my audience that doesn't know, in Nashville, July 2nd. And as the days go by, Andrew, it just seems like it's like that was like an all-time show. We talked about it off camera, but man,
Yeah.
what a night that was. What is the story with that show, Andrew? Because I think that is a historic night that you created.
Down below they dance and they stand and sing, while up above the walls were steaming in. Last night, taking out last night, last night.
I appreciate that. Like Traveling Wilburys, obviously the like late '80s pop rock supergroup with like a Tom Petty, Roy Orbison, Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne, and George Harrison. I was asked by a guy named Mike Grimes, who owns like here in town two music venues, one called the Beast and one called the Basement, and one called like the Basement East, or Beast like for short. I was asked like by him if I would head up a Traveling Wilburys tribute night. It was going to be a benefit for an animal adoption agency here in town called East Can. And I think I have like made no attempt to hide the fact that I really like Tom Petty. I play yearly Tom Petty tribute shows in town. And my last album, Airwaves, was like, completely not like a Tom Petty, like a ripoff, but I wanted like people to associate our music with his music because like he's, kind of our guiding light. And so I think Mike Grimes at the Basement East realized that, and he asked if I could help, like, put this gig together. And there's plenty of tribute shows and kind of like all-star gigs like that in Nashville, and I wanted to make it unique, and I wanted to just bring in everybody that I knew, could resonate with like that music, and would also just be like fun to play with. Because as a person, chill out, Lorenzo. I'm talking to Jamie. Sorry. As a person who splits his career between playing with his own band and then playing with other people's band like I do, it's ideal like an evening where I can play my own songs, or I can play songs where I'm like the front man and be like the guy, but then I can also help other people. I can be like a right hand man. I can be a member of other people's bands. And so on Friday, July 2nd, I feel like I was a member of like 12 people's bands.
Absolutely. It was absolutely incredible. It was almost like overdose of fantasticness. That's why I think
It was.
people have, like, as the days go by and you look at the clips and everything, it's like, oh my God, yes, that did happen. You know what I mean? It was almost
Yeah.
too much. Um,
Yeah.
I want to ask you about Tom Petty, because I love Petty too, Andrea. I feel like we have the same musical taste. When he passed,
Sure.
how was that? Must have been hard for you.
It was. I was like just speaking with Mike Grimes, who I referenced, like the owner of Basement East. When Tom Petty passed away, I think it was on a Monday, and by Wednesday, I was on stage at Basement East leading a night, like not unlike our Traveling Wilburys night, where like we were a house band and we had a bunch of guests coming in, and one of them was Elizabeth Cook. I had never met her before.
Yeah.
I think like Mike Grimes, just like put her on the list, and it was like that evening that we got to play together, and I got a spot in her band. We've ever since, I mean, we've played like hundreds of gigs together. So it was kind of cool to have some kind of silver lining come out of Petty's passing. But I mean, clearly it was upsetting. He was a guy who I don't think he ever got bad. I don't think his band ever got bad. I think they were an ideal example of how you age gracefully in rock and roll, because like each like new album was great, and it wouldn't be chasing, some kind of anthem like Running Down a Dream. Like the like tempos would like slow down a bit and get, groovier and bluesier. And it just worked. That worked with like a gracefully aging rock band. Like that's what they were. They were the ideal version of that.
Not believing all has seemed to be so. I'm flying over backyards, country homes and ranches, watching life between the branches below. And it's hard to say who you are these days.
Yeah, but Andrew, I mean, you've had some health issues that you've overcome, but because
Yeah.
of Tom Petty, I am glad that you that you took a time off for yourself and took care of yourself, because I saw Petty in the last tour, 2017 in West Palm Beach, and he couldn't move. I love Tom
Mm.
Petty, but he couldn't move, and I thought he was just getting old. In retrospect, now we know about his hips and all that stuff. But yeah, that was like I have to keep playing for the fans, taking it too far, basically.
Well, and his band too. I mean, I feel like he realized, well, he clearly had a great, like team and a label and everything. But when you are like the leader of all of that, you feel a responsibility to your band and to your audience and to like everyone like who relies on you, like not only as a musician but as an employer. So I can understand, why he wanted to keep going out on the road, and he found some like a medication that made it possible, but it ultimately wasn't clearly.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. And just to quickly touch on your health, because it's an important part of your journey. For my audience, you had a little bit of a scare there in 2013, a brain tumor.
Yeah,
But I love, Andrew, the way you live your life. You live it with gratitude, appreciation for the little things. On your social media, for example, one can find you enjoying waterfalls and
sure.
making great jokes about the Eagles and ET and couple goals and just humorous, like, grateful stuff. What did this
Yeah,
episode show you about, just life and living each moment with gratitude and all that good stuff?
my brain tumor episode,
Sure.
um it taught me everything about it, honestly. I mean, I think, you know this is a poor analogy, but like, my wife is a veterinarian and left yesterday and went to Panama, where she'll be for a month and a half, like working on animals in Panama. And as much as I miss her, um, I know that when Emily comes home, I will have like a renewed like perspective on how great it is when my wife is here, and how great it is like to have
Mm,
her in my life. I think when a thing is just always around, and when a thing becomes like a normalized, you can't help but take it for granted, like your life, like your health, like your ability to hear. And so when I had a brain tumor, it was on my hearing nerve, and all of that was like thrown into jeopardy. All of a sudden, I realized how great it is to like hear music. It wasn't just like music I enjoyed; it was the like act of hearing it. I had this kind of like 11th hour like realization of how lucky I was. And then I knew that I was going to go into like this operation where I had a likelihood of coming out without my hearing, or at least without my hearing in my right ear. And so I was worried I'd learned that lesson of appreciation too late. And when I woke up and I hadn't lost my hearing, I lost a bit of it, but when I woke up and I had a bit of it left, it was game on, and I try to keep that like renewed perspective with me. It's hard because I mean, within a couple months of my operation, I was getting upset about the trivial stuff again, and like he's playing a cool show, why am I not playing a cool show, like that kind of stuff. But I try at least once every gig to just like look out and just kind of like step out of myself for 1 minute and realize like you're playing a show, you're like doing this weird coordinated artistic like dance with a bunch of other musicians on stage, and it's awesome and people are watching it and there's this connection. And you know I don't think I would have had the wherewithal or the perspective to actually appreciate it had I not almost lost it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it comes across. It comes across like when people see you on stage. At least when I see you on stage, it's you get that same vibe when you see Bono or Bruce Springsteen or Petty. It just that human. look, even Chris Martin, I guess,
Sure.
it just feels like there's like a warmth between your soul and the audience. It's a unique, cool thing, man.
I love that. Well, I'm a big music fan as well. That's, I mean, it goes on both sides. So it's
Sure,
just,
sure.
I don't think with like a show, I don't really, like view it as like an audience and an artist. I view it as a group of like people who all enjoy one kind of music, one body of music, one band. And it's just a joyous celebration of that. So why not
Definitely.
smile?
And you know what? Let's segue into something there, because the way you connect with your audience last year during the pandemic,
Mm.
everyone did live streams, and there were some really good ones, some really good white web streams, but very few did them as good as you, Andrew Leahy. In fact,
Oh, well, thank you.
Polestar, put you in a list as one of the best charts. Like you really connected on a weekly show, if I'm not mistaken, with your fans.
Yeah, it was
Just
weekly for a year.
Yeah. So how was that? And like now that you're gonna go out on the road with real people, like how did that enhance the whole experience?
I mean, it was amazing just to have like a thing that weekly I and the other like the two guys in the band that I played it with, we had to prepare for it every week. It gave us some kind of like a routine in a year that was completely chaotic otherwise. And
Yeah.
also when you play a live stream every week, we would play for like an hour and a half. When you play weekly, I mean, we only have a couple albums. We were playing through all our material, and we knew that we couldn't keep playing like the exact same songs every week, or people wouldn't, continue to come back and watch. And so we came up with a lot of new songs. We learned hundreds of cover songs. I kept a Spotify playlist. It's well over 400 cover songs, which is just a like mammoth amount of material, but it made us really inspired. It kept us working at a time when it was hard to work as a band, and I think it was because of that kind of like prolific work pace, like that we were able to to like record a double album like that's coming out. And so I think, even though we are going to go out on the road and play to real people again, like you said, I can hear like our upcoming albums, and I hear the effect of the live stream in it, like just because it sounds like we're like got charged up again. It's all about that like renewed perspective. I feel like the live stream and the crazy year of 2020 is what gave us like a perspective on how great it is like to be in a band and to be able to make music and have people care that we're making music.
I dig that, Andrew. I dig that a lot, and you're being so kind with your time. I definitely want to ask you a couple YouTube questions, but before that, keep
At
the
it.
keep the car running. It's what an amazing album that you're gonna put out. I mean, the little tidbits that are out, if that's how it's gonna
Yeah.
sound, like, man, drop the mic. But the
Hell yeah.
story of that album, like take us into 16-year-old Andrew Leahy driving around Richmond, Virginia, listening to the FM radio, man. What were some of those songs, moments, that I can almost envision you like a Dazed and Confused, but like '90s version. Am I, am I
Well, I
mistaken?
appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. I wonder which character I'd be in that movie. But I love that movie.
I'll
Yeah,
get
I
back
mean
to you on
it's
that. But it wouldn't be McConaughey. I don't think so.
sure. Okay. That's okay, well good. Good. In that case I don't want to be McConaughey. Um Yeah, when I was like a teenager, like that's probably when I was getting into classic rock. I grew up just like listening to like the pop radio. It was at a time in like the late '80s and early '90s when, I mean, I think like pop radio was really good, and you could hear like Springsteen and Tom Petty and like Mellencamp on the top 40. It was a time when like rock and roll was like pop music, which was awesome. And Yeah, playing music in the car, it's just always like, to me it's like the greatest place to hear music, because you get to like hear music. You have this like landscape that's kind of constantly changing. It's almost like your own personal music video. Um, and as like a traveling musician, you spend most of your time in the car. You spend so much more time in a car like than you spend on stage. And so we always kind of try to make car driving music. That's what we tried with Airwaves, and hopefully that's what you'll get with the upcoming one too.
Amazing, amazing, Andrew. You've been so kind. Now let me ask you about you too. My audience knows that I'm in the industry, but for U2, I'm a fan. My audience knows that.
Me
So
too.
exactly, we just can't help it. So I gotta ask you a little bit about U2, man. Like, how did U2 come into your life?
Man, I mean, like behind me, I've got my old like booklets of like CDs, and like from college,
Yeah.
I've got so many live albums of U2. I mean, like everyone, I grew up and they were all over the radio. I think probably their first album that I bought with my own money was Octane Baby, and I would have like been a kid at that
Mm,
point. But it wasn't until I remember my high school girlfriend, you know, maybe like a mixtape, and on it was a live version of With or Without You. And like now, like knowing, I mean, I'm a U2 like fanatic now. So now I can probably like pinpoint like that live version as being like late '87. Like probably one of like the concerts like that went on to like at the Rattle and Hum.
We'll shine like stars in the winter night. We'll shine like stars in the silver night. One heart, one heat, one love.
Like
right.
album, but like not like that specific like performance. But I was just blown away by Bono's like power as a vocalist.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when I got to college and I had like broadband internet for like the first time ever, and that was in like the heyday of like LimeWire and
Yes.
Kazaa and like Audio Galaxy. And so I would just go on and just get like hours of live U2 music. And it just blew my mind how good they were as a band, and how like a lot of like these songs that aren't always completely realized on an album, like the latter half of an album, like trying to like throw your arms around the world, or like Love Is Blindness. You hear them live and they just sound so amazing. It was so great to it was a great example in like a song not like being like defined by its one performance on an album. A song, I think, is like the sum of all its performances.
Right.
um and so now, I mean, I've seen U2 a bunch of times. I caught them for the first time on the All That You Can't Leave Behind tour. I guess would be like the Elevation tour in Washington D.C., and like a PJ
Awesome.
Harvey opened.
Yeah.
Caught them so many other times. I guess like my two like greatest U2 concerts would be in Boston in 2005. It was like right when I graduated college, like the week that I graduated college. We
Was
were
this in
like
December?
in the
In December or no?
No, I think it would have been. I think it was in May of
In May.
2005,
Okay.
or the
Okay.
summer
Okay.
2005. But we were like in the heart, like in the
Yeah.
like a ramp area.
Oh.
I like remember I could like read the underside of Bono's shoes, and they said "soul." I thought that was really funny.
Oh my God.
And
That's
when
great.
they opened up and confetti came down from the ceiling, I grabbed a bunch and put it in my wallet, and then I just
Yeah.
had like confetti in my wallet for years. The other great U2 show that I saw, I mean, like they were all great, but like the other greatest U2 show I saw was in 2011 in East Lansing on the Claw tour. It was like a week
Yeah.
before I moved here to Nashville, and I thought they
Yes.
were just amazing. Like Bono was in great voice, and it's like 2011 isn't viewed as like the golden era of U2. And it was great to watch a group like that was older,
Yeah.
continue to just absolutely kick butt.
That show's it's in lore, it they started with Even
Is
Better
it?
Than the Real Thing, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And there was like sunlight. There was a little bit of daylight when they started.
It was
Yeah, I
weird. Yeah.
believe so.
In Michigan, but I lived in, like in Michigan for a number of years. You're like a pretty far west, but you're in East Coast like at a time. And I think like because of that, possibly it is like light outside for a long time in the summer. So I remember it was
Yeah.
weird to watch U2 in the daylight. I felt like it
Yeah.
was like early '80s at some like like a festival or something where they were like low on the bill. It was weird to watch them, but
So
yeah, what
cool,
an
man.
amazing show! Also, an amazing version of "Stay" on that show.
Oh, so great. So great. Hot topic
Yeah,
YouTube question, and Andrew, and I'll let you go. What's your take on pop?
I like pop. Um, I think a couple of songs on pop were better realized live, which is what I mentioned earlier. I feel like Gone, I like more in a live context. I like the kind of call and response in the chorus of like the Edge, going like down. I like that. Um, and I think I like the like a remix of If God Would Send His Angels, like they came out on the single, I think. I think
Yeah.
like a lot of albums, it seems like they spent a lot of time on a couple tracks and made them sound amazing, and had like other good songs that were not pushed to like the back burner, but weren't as realized when they had to get released. Um, but you know, it's also like a timestamp. It sounds late '90s to me, and as a person who was around and like listening like to music in the late '90s, I don't mind that. But I can understand if you're a Joshua Tree purist, you listen to pop and you think, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah. Well, Andrew, you've said it all, man. I think, look, I could talk to you for 17 hours and you got stuff to do, but what can I say, man? It's been an honor to connect with you. You're a great soul, great musical talent. Andrew Leahy and the
Man,
Homestead. Everyone check you guys out, man. So thanks for everything, bro.
I'm honored to be part of it, man. It was good talking
Absolutely.
to you.
We'll be in touch.
All right, buddy.
Bye.
See you.